So I saw this video on this Instagram channel called All Hip Hop Models, and it has this video here that you can see, and it basically says basketball wives are their players. If you look at the comments, it's basically like, notice anything? Come on, let me refresh that. Notice anything? Basketball players and their women. What do you notice? Do you notice anything? So I actually left a comment. I left a comment on this. And the traditional or the old school way of thinking says, the old school way of thinking basically says, look, black men should marry black women. Oh my God. Black men should choose black women. Oh my God. Oh my gosh. I've changed my perspective on this. And I hear you, Umar Johnson. I understand everything that Umar Johnson has said. I fully 100% understand Umar Johnson's perspective. When black men marry, or specifically his theory is this: black men that get white women, they typically don't get the top tier white women. They get the ones that the white men don't want. I mean, this woman looks very beautiful. I'm sure white men want her too, but they claim that they get the ones that are new money. They're not getting top tier white women is what they're saying, or his claim is, right? And in addition to that, when they do this, right, system of being with white women, what happens to them? What happens to them? It's just transfer. You're removing the opportunity to put money into a black woman's hands, or you're restricting black economic empowerment, because when you look, there are very few black men that make a lot of money. This is Umar Johnson's perspective. My perspective has changed. I'm going to give you my perspective shortly. But there are very few black men that make a lot of money, and the fact that the 1% of them are all marrying other races, he's saying, well, that's not a good thing. He's saying that's not a good thing. He's saying that, look, it's not a good thing. You're taking money out of the black community and you're giving it to the white community. And then can we also add this very important factor that when this does happen and they do have a divorce, well, the court systems are in these white women's in their favor, and essentially they're able to, take black men's wealth. We have this, boxer, Israel Adesanya. His ex-girlfriend reportedly drags him to court, demands half of his wealth. She's from Yeah. Oh, he's New Zealand? Oh, he is. Estranged girlfriend of New Zealander, Nigerian mixed martial arts, Israel Adesanya, has reportedly dragged him to court and demands half of his assets in settlement. Wow. I don't know what country the case is. But damn, that's a lot of money. But this is what happens, and they typically get the money. Tiger Woods, he has a famous case that happens so many occasions, right? They drag them to court, they get the money, they take their wealth. And Umar Johnson's argument is marriage is a financial institution. Marriage is designed for wealth building. And when you do marry other races, you're increasing the wealth potential of those other races. That's his, and you're removing it from the black community. That is his perspective. And we see time and time again of these women stealing these men's wealth. This is the perspective of Umar Johnson. I have a different perspective. I'll tell you my perspective, but this is what he's saying. This is what's happening to this UFC fighter. This is another one. Oh, Shane O'Malley disclosed that while speaking on a podcast stream, he said the girl in question was never married to Israel nor had a child with him, but believes that she's entitled to half of his wealth because they dated too long and supported his ultimate fighting championship UFC career. But this is not just the only case that we've seen like this happen, right? Tiger Woods, this is the second time it's happening to Tiger Woods. He had a girlfriend. So he had a wife that took half his wealth. And now Tiger Woods has a girlfriend that's trying to take his money. And the U.S. courts, I don't know if this is happening in the U.S. courts, but the U.S. courts will take the side of the white woman because the U.S. courts, because of white supremacy, will find a way to extract wealth from the black community as much as possible. And you know what I have to say to this? I say, you're going to be surprised by what I have to say to this. I say, do what you want. Do what you want. So I actually commented in this video. I commented in this post, and some people were upset with what I had to say. Oh God, no. Some people were upset with what I had to say. Some people agreed with what I had to say. Let me read for you what I had to say. So I said, I'd love to show it to you guys, but I don't know. Oh, here it is. Perfect. My comments. See, you see the comment section going crazy, going off. Comment section going off. So my perspective on this. Come on, what are you doing? Okay. What are you doing? Okay, it's not showing my whole thing. Come on. Why are you not showing my whole perspective? Okay. Maybe I can get it from here. Oh, jeez. Okay, where? Anyway, I'll just tell you my perspective because it's not showing here. But my perspective on this is very simple. I think that my opinion has evolved. I used to agree with Umar Johnson and what he had to say. I thought that was great, a great way to articulate it. But my opinion today is that these men, they tend to impregnate black women anyway. Bear with me. Bear with me. I know on this channel I talk a lot about how black men over procreating is bad for black economic empowerment and keeps black people poor. But I've read a lot of books on white supremacy, and I'm now tweaking my mind. I'm changing my perspective. I'm exploring a new perspective. Maybe if I read something else and get more research on something else, I'll go back to my original perspective. But if you want to hear what I think about black men over procreating, having kids in multiple different households and doing all these things and stealing their wealth, I'll put some links to some videos that I've made below. But this is what I think today. I think spread your seed. Spread your seed and increase the black population in America. Spread it. Have a white baby mama, have a black baby mama, have all the baby mamas. Spread your seed because there's strength in numbers. Now that sounds bad, but hear me out. I genuinely think that if there are more black people in America, that is actually going to force an end to white supremacy. And not more, let me be specific. I won't say if there's more black people in America. I will say if there are more non-white Caucasian European Americans, if as their population is declining right now, if their population continues to decline, I do believe we're going to see an end to white supremacy. Now, this is a very complex answer. Some people got pissed off with me. And it's so funny because in posts like this, typically, people are waiting to see the black gender wars show off, like go off, and people, attacking. But that's not what happened on this post. Not in my comment section. This is what and it's so funny because you think we don't realize that white people are watching everything that we're saying online. And they're using it to fuel against us, make us fight each other. They're watching everything. And what I realized that in this post, when my opinion was pro-black, they didn't see black women and black men fighting on the post. That's what they love to do. But this time it was the white men that came for me on this post. They were pissed when I said, black men, spread your seed. I said, black men, have multiple different baby mamas, get a white woman pregnant, get a black woman pregnant, get all of them kids pregnant. And I also said, and I quote, black women should play their role too. Marry other races and strengthen the numbers. There is strength in numbers. Because the way that I see it, if I read my quote, I don't know why for some reason it's not popping up. The way that I see it, inevitably, white supremacy will come to an end by force, especially as their numbers are dwindling. They even include Arab and North Africans in official forms to increase their numbers. Did you know that? On official forms, where it says white, they make Middle Easterners who are Asians and North Africans who are Africans tick those forms as white people so they can increase the white population, when in reality, those people don't benefit off of white supremacy, especially not since 9/11 and sort of the war on Islam. So it's interesting to me how they try to inflate their numbers to their benefits. There's 70% of America's population is white. No, it's not. If you have Middle Easterners, every person from the Middle East and North Africa that I know do not claim white. In fact, they are more racist towards white people than anybody that I've ever seen. So it's interesting to me that you include them as part of whiteness in America because you're trying to dilute you're trying to increase or inflate your numbers when it's just not the reality. So I think it'll be very, very interesting when the number of European Americans, which is already dwindling in America, but dwindling in Europe too. Whereas you look at Africa, 1.2 billion people growing exponentially fast. I think by 2030, we're going to be the most populated people, black people, there's Africa, 1.2 billion. China, 1.4 billion Chinese. Where else? India just surpassed China, or is about to surpass China as the most populous country in the world, 1.4 billion also. So when it comes down to it, the white population is dwindling. And I'm not saying this, look, I don't hate white people. People love to say just because you're anti-white supremacist, that means you're anti-white people. I keep telling you guys, white supremacy is not the same thing as white people. And I have some comments in here that got annoyed, and I'm going to address some of them. So one guy, his name is, well, don't worry about his name. One guy posts, wait. So people are pissed off with my comments, right? Okay, so some guy posts because he wanted me to be triggered as a black woman. This is a black man. He wanted me to be triggered. He wanted me to be like, no, marry black women. No, that's what he wanted, but he didn't get what he wanted from me. I said, hey, spread your seed. And he goes, doesn't make sense. The difference is the other race of women listen and respect their black men. Black women don't respect black men. Being submissive is kryptonite to them. So he was like, somebody agreed with my comment and said, wow, damn, fire, about me saying spread the seed. So I respond to the guy that's talking about black women and black men. Notice how, because I didn't get triggered, they want black women to get triggered in these posts. Black women, wisen up. Don't get triggered in these posts. You have to respond the way that I responded. I didn't get triggered in this post because I really don't care. But I didn't get triggered like they were expecting. This is what they wanted. I didn't do that. I just said, yes, do what you're doing. Go forth. Spread your seed. Have kids all over the place, right? And then so I respond to this guy and say, please speak for the women on your block. A lot of these men talk about black women do this, speak for the women in your hood, in your block. Speak for them. Don't speak for black women. Today, that was yesterday, a Nigerian woman broke the Guinness World Record for cooking up to 10 hours, 100 hours, 100 hours and 40 minutes nonstop. Google her. Her name is Hilda Bachi. She just defeated the, Guinness Book of World Records doing that. Nigerian women are very submissive and they keep up a home. But that is also because African men provide for them 100%. So there's that. And before you claim Africans aren't black, because a lot of people like to claim Africans are all black, please note that our DNA is 100% black, not mixed with anything else, no European blood, nada. So please don't speak about what all black people do when you don't know most of them. Just speak about the women on your block, because to add to that, I also know plenty of black American women. I know plenty. I'm in America right now, right? I know plenty of black American women that are respectful. Perhaps they don't respect jailbirds and school dropouts. But in their defense, society at large don't respect those characters either. So you talk about black women not being respectful to black men. They're not gonna, how, if society does not respect a certain group of people, and I'm not dogging black men for being jailbirds, or a lot of the system has been put against you, and I understand that, but there's level of accountability. But if you're acting ratchet, if you're acting like a hood king, a drug dealer, or whatever, and you want a black woman to respect you, why would she respect you? Nobody's gonna respect you, and you know. So I said that, right? But in their defense, society at large doesn't respect those men either. Plenty of educated black American men don't run into these issues with women. And I said, finish school, fellas, because we know the numbers of men in schools, black men in schools, is dwindling. Now, I will add that, yes, I cannot negate that there is a culture in America that has affected both black women and black men. And I have seen it, the black women in America. And this is not someone that's necessarily, it's a cultural thing. It's not someone that's necessarily Nigerian American that does, you know, I've seen African, like literally Africa, for like a specific country in Africa, but they're American and they behave like this. So this is not exclusive to foundational black Americans. There's a culture in America that makes some women, not just black women, some women have very masculine energy. I will agree with that. There is a culture. Kevin Samuels used to bash all of them. There is a culture of that. But for someone to post all black women do that is so ridiculous to me and ignorant. And that's why I told him, speak for the women that you expose yourself to on your block, and speak for the lifestyle and the lack of accountability that you have. Don't speak for all black women, because there are plenty. I know so many black women, especially being Nigerian, that are very submissive. And the culture in Nigeria makes women submissive to men. The culture in America does not make women submissive to men. It's kind of hot. So it's also the culture and the conditioning of this place that doesn't make women submissive in America. And I understand that there's an outcry, and because I started choosing to understand or see the manosphere's perspective, and there's some truth to some of the things that they do say. You know, I've started to see, look, a lot of what they say, because like I say, I get outraged by the things they complain about, but when I actually look at the city girl culture in Black America and all that nonsense, and I'm just kind of like, who are these people? No wonder these men are complaining, because some of these women are just like, what are you doing? And that's what you're supposed to pick from? So I don't blame some of these men too, like, trust me, I get it. But some of these men are not great themselves. So it's like a thing where I think Black America just needs to do better. And I'm not saying, I know there's a lot that was against Black America, but I think it really starts with, especially with the men, going to school, graduating, you know, doing all of those things, educating yourself, reading books. I have a system, I read a book a week. Read more books, educate your mind, be more intelligent. And then you're not gonna run into these hoodlums. Cause I don't see hoodlums. I do not even know how to interact with a hoodlum. I'm sorry, I don't. It's hard. So that was my comment. Then I added to him, because I just don't understand. What I said has nothing to do with what he was talking about. So I go, but you missed the point. Everyone should go and get what they want. If you don't like Black women, that's not Black women's business. Date what you want. Who cares? Because have you noticed that a lot of Black men, they say these things. I don't want to date Black. They say it to piss Black women off. But if you don't want to date, like, why is that anyone's business? If you don't want to date Black women, just don't date Black women. Who cares? But don't use that as an excuse to insult Black women. We don't need to hear. We don't care. If you don't want to date Black women, don't date them. But they do it to sort of flaunt in Black women's face, you know, to spite Black women. But it's like, who fucking, I know some Black women care. I'm not one of them. Some Black women care, but these are myopic people. Like, who cares? Date who you want. Because half these Black women don't want you either. You know? So that's that. That's that. But when it comes down to it, 70% of black men date black women. So these narratives are just not real. They're not real. And these men still, even though like they might get be in a relationship with a white woman, they're still going to impregnate some black women. So they're still spreading the seed. And yes, I'd hate to see fatherless homes and all that stuff. I don't support that. But hey, that okay, somebody actually commented and said this. Look, so promote fatherless households and present infidelity as a prime example of being a man, let alone a black man. Got it. Then I responded. This is my response to that. People that say that I'm promoting fatherless homes. This is my response. They're gonna do it anyway, and you know it. If I can't control them, nor do I care to, so or said, I can't control them, nor do I care to. So we might as well see the benefits of it. It increases the black population. So yes, I don't think that should be the first option. Obviously, the first option I would say to a black man, go ahead, be a father in the household, pick a black woman. The Umar Johnson option is definitely an option that I think it makes sense. It works to build black economic empowerment. But we know some of these men are spoiled. We know some of these men are going to sleep around. And I say there's a pros to it, because I've been reading this book, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. I'm going to talk about this argument that Nick Cannon pushes about spreading his seed and saying that it's so Eurocentric to think that, a man should have, one family unit and he can't be polygamous or polyamorous. I totally understand it. And I'm going to talk about the pros of being polyamorous traditionally and the reason why it's not working today. Maybe I can talk about that now. Yeah. So what are the pros traditionally? When you think about it, because Umar Johnson is polygamous. First of all, he has kids in multiple different, he has many kids, and he has 2 wives. He married 2 wives, allegedly. Well, he had a whole ceremony in 2020. He married 2 wives. So polygamy. Now, in the book, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, why were Africans polygamous? Well, it's because they had right? They had farms. And on these farms, they needed workers. So they ended up having kids with multiple women so they could have prolific workers on their farms. But guess what happened? They all lived in the same household. They all shared the same expenses. And they all were prolific in building a productive farm. Yes, as one child gets older, and the household is too big, he had to go off and create a sub-farm for his father. But in a way, you're building the wealth. And this system for generational wealth building can work if you do it right. Now, here's the problem with what is done in the modern day landscape with polygamy, especially within black men. They do not exercise polygamy the economical way. So they're sleeping around with different women. These women don't know about each other. These women they start fighting with each other. They impregnate all these women, and it's not a healthy family unit. So that's already the toxicity. The smarter traditional way to do polygamy is every woman should know about each other. We're in a relationship together, and we're seeing a lot of more polygamous and relationships go like that, right? Polyamorous relationships go like that. There's communication, there's open communication, there is therapy, there's all these things. This is if you're gonna do it the right way. Do it the economical way. We can all, participate to this household. So imagine, you have to think about why are Indian Americans the most successful group in America? Why? It's because they all live together in the same household. You got to think about it. Indian Americans, they make so much more than any other race. Indian Americans being South Asian Indian Americans. They make so much more money than any other race. Why? Because the grandma, the grandpa, the son, the brothers, all their wives, all their children, they're living in the same household. Now, in America, I don't know if it's that extreme, because I know in India, that's what they do. I know in Nigeria, that's what they do. I don't know I'm sure there are going to be Indians here doing that. but as many of them as possible live in the same household. This is actually how Andrew Tate said that he built his wealth, because he'll buy 20 cars, Bugattis, and he shares them with his brother and everybody. So the Indian, family unit, they buy all these things, or not some, they don't need to buy all these things, but whatever they buy, it's shared in a communal landscape setting. So everybody owns it. Everybody shares it. This gives you access to more. This allows you to build more wealth, and your expenses are much lower. So this is why on this channel I talk about white supremacy. White supremacy was designed as a vehicle for capitalism. In capitalism, we are all slaves to capitalism, whether you're white, you're black, whatever. Everybody in America, in the American capitalistic game, is a slave to capitalism. Why? Because capitalism has convinced you that you need to have your own house by the time you turn 18 or you're not a man. That's all propaganda, branding, and marketing so that people can sell their own products and make more money from you. Because as an entrepreneur, if I sell houses, how much money am I going to make if there's one family and there are 10 of them in that family and they buy one house, as opposed to there are 10 of them in that family and they buy 6 houses from me? How much more money will I make? So because of capitalism, we've been convinced to spend more money, thin out our money, and make it more difficult for us to have generational wealth. But the Indian Americans have outsmarted that system and said, look, we'll share the same household. And we're going to build our wealth. Yes, there are pros and cons to every system. There's a con to sharing a household with so many family members. There's a con to sharing a household with so many wives. There's going to be a lot more drama, bad for your mental health, all these things. But is it going to be economical? Absolutely. And so the economical thing to do with polygamy is to have everybody in the same household. And that means you're going to have to work towards communication. You're going to have to work towards family unity. You're going to have to work towards those things. Yes, people fight naturally, but it's economical. As opposed to in America, because they've convinced everybody in the American system that you have to work, you have to be independent, you have to do all these things, and you have to be in the rat race. Homelessness is rising. All sorts of things are rising. And I heard about this guy, even a white guy, right? I guess he was down on his luck, and he asked his dad, I think I might have to move into your house. And the dad's like, you have to pay. So this happens to everyone. It's not just black people. It happens to everyone, right? So this American system that Nick Cannon thinks he's, rich, but yeah, you might be worth $40 million or whatever, but you're paying how many rents? How many rents are you paying? 7? 8? And this is like semi-luxury, right? So we're talking about you're probably putting around $4,000 or maybe $3,000 a month, and you're paying how many child support checks? 11 kids? It's just not a way to build generational wealth. So that kind of system, you just are not going to be able to be generational wealthy. But if you are a man and you know that you're promiscuous and you are, because I think a real masculine man can have his women, not hide his women from each other, because that's what a bitch would do. That's what a freaking pussy would do. You're hiding your women and you're sneaking and no. If you're open from the jump and said, this is what it is, and all these women, and you tell them, you communicate, this is what I want, this is what I expect, and there's a level of communication, you can build those relationships in a polygamous way, and you can build your wealth. And everybody's under the same household. Maybe it sounds like a lot, but hey, there are pros and cons in life, and there are risks you're going to take. But if you can put everybody in the same household, and as soon as those kids start walking, as soon as those kids start talking, they start working. You build a family business, you can become so rich and you can save so much money. So to me, if you're going to be polygamous, that's the only way to do it. That's the only way to do it. But in this case, when I'm saying men, spread your seed, like I said, these black men are going to do this anyway. So you might as well see the pros of it. And the pros of over procreation in the black community, whether it's black women over procreating, which they do, whether it's black men over procreating, which they do. The benefits of it, in my view, at the end of the day, is that we're increasing the black population, And what that will ultimately mean is the end of white supremacy. Now, this rubbed a lot of white men the wrong way. They were pissed. They wanted me to say black men are trash. No, hate black men, because they love these black on black gender wars for their entertainment. Y'all, white people pretend like they don't watch black content. Every time I make a video about black people, about white supremacy, there's so many white people in my comments. White people are entertained by black content. They act like they don't watch it. They watch it all. They watch it all. I already expect some insults in this comment section. I already expect the insults. They watch it all. They comment all. They're all there. So this guy responds and says, so this is my strategy of spread your seed. Black men have, white women's babies. Black women do it too. Everybody should do it. Increase the black population. This guy responds and says, that's only going to work the first generation, when black people will get whitewashed and look European themselves if they continue just being with white girls or men. He laughs. And I said, no. 70% of black men date or marry black women. That's not even counting who they have kids with. A lot are having kids with multiple women. So, that won't happen. Sure, they will be lighter skinned, blacks over time. There are going to be more blacks that are lighter skinned, like the Amber Roses, who still claim their blackness. They're going to be more, but they're going to be black cultured. And black cultured means you're going to be less likely to be a white supremacist, which is going to help us. So here we go. Right? But they damn sure won't be white. So I said, sure, they will be lighter skinned, blacks, over time, but they damn sure won't be white. Also, you forget there are 1.2 billion black people in Africa, and those numbers are growing even faster. They're growing so fast. So there's always going to be a fresh a batch of 100% blacks to darken the pool, essentially, or especially with the Pan-African movement. And I'm talking about the Pan-Africanism that our good brother Umar Johnson promotes. There's going to be. And so many black men, so funny, so many black men were in my comments. They were saluting me. I think a lot of people just expected me to say, but so many black men were saluting me for saying this, which is interesting. Then this other guy responds. I don't even want to say his response because he was just like, rude, and I insulted him back. So I'm not going to talk about the petty things that I said on there. So another guy comes, and this guy is like, he looks black, and he says, I don't really get it. Blacks in America are so different from blacks in the rest of the world. Wait. I don't really get it. Blacks in America are so different from Africans. The rest of the world treat us different also. I live in UAE, United Arab Emirates, where Dubai is, and they even pay Africans less. We are both of African descent, but not the same people. A lot of black Africans are mixed. Whew, the ignorance. Umar Johnson has some things to say to people that say these things. He bashes them, but I'll give you my response. I simply told this young gentleman, read the room. You're in a room where black, it's the white men that are coming after, because they wanted the black men and women to fight in this post, but that's not what's happening here. Read the room in my comment section. Read the room. This ain't a place for tribalism, boy. That's what I told him. Also, UAE is classist like most UAE is classist like most places in the world. Sure, there are working class immigrant Africans there who are desperate to move there. There are also African billionaires and millionaires. There are also African billionaires and millionaires that don't work for nobody. So they aren't looking for a salary. Nigerians are known for spending a lot in Dubai. And there are two types of Nigerians over there. There's levels to this. Truth is, I'm sure they are looking at your education and using that to determine your salary. Don't confuse being a foundational Black American with the power of a US passport. I'm Nigerian American with a US passport and still experience the same benefits, perhaps even more, because I come from money, right? And so I said, but ultimately, feeding into this idea that we are different is just leaning into white supremacy. Because if you want to play the game of capitalism and white supremacy, the richest Black people in the world are Africans, and they reap most of the benefits from capitalism. These Blacks don't experience the discrimination and racism that Blacks in America experience. And I'm talking about my community of people. Look, I'm Nigerian American. Grew up in a very wealthy family. We don't experience the racism. It doesn't exist in our world, right? And so I say to this, and I don't support that idea because this is what I said, right? These Blacks don't experience the discrimination and racism Black Africans face or Black Americans face. It has never existed to them. But they are also the same Blacks that co-created white supremacy and continue to uphold it. But that's another conversation. Now, if you watched my documentary called The Great Divide, where I talk about the history of white supremacy, go watch all of that. I broke that down in that documentary. Africans, the political class in Africa, are co-architects in white supremacy. And these are the same people, not just the political class, the 1%, and also the 1% of Blacks in America too. But the Africans are just the most richest Black people in the world. Aliko Dangote, who's worth $10 billion. There's so many people that are, in fact, Aliko Dangote is not the richest Black man in the world. There are people, a lot of them, the political money, who have stolen their wealth. But he's the legitimate richest Black man in the world. There are a lot of illegitimate. It's kind of how like Putin is, is stupid rich, or how the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia is stupid rich. Same way, once you're in politics in Africa, you have access to the country's treasures, and those are natural resources, and some of them gift themselves oil mines and all sorts. So you think about the hundreds of billions of dollars in some of these people's possession, and this is liquid, this is real money, not stock market hundreds of billions that you see Elon Musk. This is not inflation or fake money that they've built for the stock market billionaires. No, this is real resources that people have that make them worth this much money. So when people say the richest man in the world is someone on the stock market, no, he's not. Why do they even do that? It's a lie. Anyway, but my point is that we can't feed into this mentality that we're different, we're better, because that's like, at the end of the day, that's what white supremacy does, divide and conquers. It tells Africans, the wealthy Africans, that you're better than the Black Americans. It tells the African immigrants that come to America that you're better than the Black Americans, and this or that. It tells Black Americans that you're better than the Africans. It tells everybody. That's how they divide and conquer. So if you play into that and you fall into that and you think, oh, because I'm mixed, I have more proximity to whiteness, and the Black African is like, well, because I'm rich, I have more proximity to whiteness, you feed into white supremacy. We have to kill this mindset. I want to find Umar Johnson bashing people that say stuff like this, because he was vicious with them. Like, no, we do not want to celebrate this type of mentality. This is not the mentality that we want to celebrate in Black people. I don't know. I can't find the video, but he went off on Blacks that say, that say that, oh, I'm foundational Black American, I'm different. It's just not a smart mentality. Anyway, so some other guy responded to me. So he goes and says, so when white supremacy comes to an end by force, what do I do to my white parents? And what do I do to my mixed child? Do I discipline them for being half white? Do I discipline myself for being so? And do I tell my parents their supremacy has officially ended, and thus they are now lower than I? Oh my God. Hatred from either side is not the way to solve any of these problems. This is what's crazy to me. Don't worry, wait for my response. It sounds like you're insinuating that once white supremacy ends, all the darker skinned individuals will reap retribution. Where did I say that now? Back and forth it goes, century after millennium. But it solves nothing. Both sides have to come together and work together so that all human beings can be one with each other and understand that other cultures can coexist. He goes on to say some whatever about his family. So to which I responded to this man because like, what? And I said, that whole kumbaya narrative is BS. If you really want to give a lecture, give it to the oppressors who are actively killing and disenfranchising black people every day. White supremacy thrives off of deflection, denying, and gaslighting its existence, which is essentially what you are doing. Also, the key issue with its ideology is that it teaches the opposition to it. It teaches that the opposition to it is violent and evil. This is just a projection and a reflection of its true dark, vicious nature. I think it's bizarre that the first thing that you thought of in a world void of white supremacy is hatred and ridicule towards whites. Marinate on that. A world void of white supremacy can simply be a world where there is peace and real equity. And no oppression based on race. The anger you see in the world towards white supremacy right now is simply due to its active brutality. You should look into Ibram X. Kendi's works on how it was created. The truth is, white supremacy has done so much harm in the world that it's a fear that if you give it up, people will seek revenge. And I just don't think that's the case. I just think non-whites want to stop being disenfranchised. My point in saying that black men should have more babies is simply the fact that there's strength in numbers. It doesn't mean that whites should be oppressed. I would never support oppression of any race or human. It just literally means as a minority group, your power and influence will dwindle. But we are already seeing that with the death of the dollar anyway. And I plug my documentary, The Death of the Dollar, on my channel, The University of Making Money. But this is a theme. This is a theme with people. The second that you say, end white supremacy, they're threatened. They think you guys want to reverse it on them. I just think, no, stop oppressing people. That's all. And hatred towards white supremacy is not hatred towards white people. When they conflate, it's so funny because white supremacy spends so much time dividing and conquering that they've also spent time creating unity in places that shouldn't have unity, like making white people want to defend white supremacy when white supremacy doesn't even serve them, or when white supremacy is actually evil. And white supremacy has nothing to do with being white or being a white person. It's not the same thing, but this Confucianist tactics has confused white people into defending it. Even someone that seems to be, a kind-hearted man, or I won't say kind-hearted, I don't know him, but someone that seems to be, non-racist. I mean, he has a black wife. Maybe that's what I was trying to say. He's still defending white supremacy, and that's not what I said. It's crazy. You guys have to pay attention to this. White supremacy tactics. Those are my thoughts. This was an interesting conversation. Let me know your thoughts. Leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, all the above. I did get more comments. I got so many more comments. I got so many more comments. I'm not going to respond to all of them. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, all the above. You're watching Brand Video Pro. I'm your host, Kenamo. And I'll see you next time. Peace.